and welcome to Greenheart Connects. I'm Marcel, and I'll be your host. We are so glad that you're here with us today. Greenheart Connects is a monthly online series where like-minded people gather and exchange ideas for caring for the earth and for each other. Through facilitated discussions and curated presentations, people from around the world share inspiring stories, tips, suggestions, and resources to improve local communities and the world. Greenheart Connects is brought to you by Greenheart International, a not-for-profit organization facilitating global understanding through cultural exchange programs for Americans and young people around the world. Thanks so much for being here today. Travel and cultural exchange broaden perspectives and change lives. We think you will be inspired by what we have to share with you today. Greenheart Connects dives into several themes throughout the year: environmentalism, volunteerism, fair trade, and personal growth. Today, we're talking with Nasreen Sheikh about her fair trade enterprise, Local Women's Handicraft. Nasreen doesn't know her exact age, as girls' births are not recorded in her village on the India-Nepal border, nor are girls allowed to go to school. When she was a child, Nasreen worked 12 to 15 hours a day in a cramped sweatshop, receiving less than $2 per shift. A serendipitous meeting with a kind stranger allowed her to escape the sweatshop and the forced marriage her parents had arranged. Nasreen founded Local Women's Handicrafts, or LWH, a fair trade sewing collective in Kathmandu. Like many fair trade organizations and producers, it is about so much more than the products they make. For today's presenter, Nasreen, fair trade is also about women's empowerment and about caring for one another. Local Women's Handicraft empowers disadvantaged women by providing paid training in clothing and jewelry design. Over 100 women have been trained, many of whom have escaped forced and abusive marriages. The women at LWH also provide medical help for rural women, distribute backpacks with school supplies to impoverished children, make reusable shopping bags to reduce plastic, and provide disaster relief in times of crisis. We think you will be inspired. After the presentation, we will meet back here for a live Q&A with Nasreen. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Nasreen Sheikh. I escaped forced marriage, child labor in textile industry, and extreme poverty. I worked hard and I risked everything to experience one thing, a freedom. Now I have an education, an impactful voice, and home in US and Nepal. Sadly, there are still over 40 million people who remain in modern-day slavery. I'm campaigning on behalf of them by sharing my story around the world because I feel the more we share the stories, that's how we raise awareness, and when we have the awareness, that's how we make a change. You must be asking question, how did I make this far? So I'm going to share with you a short timeline but a long journey. I come from undocumented village called Rajoura. My village is located on the border of India-Nepal. It is a highly populated area where women frequently bear 8 to 10 children, many of whom die. It is a place where humans are trafficked for sex, labors, and domestic servitude, where children are slaves. Women have no rights, and to this day, girls are forced into marriage at a young age. I have no idea how old I am. I do not have birth certificate or a surname, because in my village, births are not recorded. My mother had me on the earth floor in a tiny room, with no electricity, no clean water, no fresh white towels. She may have held me in her arms and looked at my face with love, but the sense of sadness and recognition in the people around her would have soon dampened her joy, because I was not a boy. Growing up, I witnessed many atrocities against women and children, many just for speaking their truth. When I saw my 12-year-old big sister being forced into marriage, I knew I would be next. My life seemed destined for the same oppressive path. With the help of my male cousin, I traveled to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. In my village, sending children to work in a factory was a very normal experience. I was around 9 or 10 years old. A child labor, working 12 to 15 hours a day, with bleeding fingers to complete the mountain of garments the manager put in front of me. Only then I would receive my payment, less than $2 per grueling shift. If I failed to finish the pile, I received nothing. I ate, slept, worked in the sweatshop, a room the size of a prison cell. We were fed one small meal a day, usually white rice with few lentils or vegetables. The food was full of dust, and often I had to pick up sewing threads out of my mouth before I could swallow it. We were fed like animals and worked like machines. I hated those clothes. They were woven with the energy of my suffering. At the end of each day, I would collapse onto the large bundle of clothes and daydream about where they would end up and who would wear them. Some of you may be wearing those clothes right now. The sweatshop operated for 2 years before it shut down. I was spending most of my time in the street, often used to lean against a wall outside a school, watching young people who were happily going about life and getting their education. I daydreamed about what it would be like to be a student and have a life where I could have a book, shoes, or a uniform. Help came to me in the form of an angel. One morning, it was around 6 or 6:30 a.m. and near to me, like one dog comes to me, and when that dog comes to me and come nears to me and started like a sniff, like how dog always likes to sniff on other people, and he started to do the same thing on me. So when he sniffed on me, I got really, really scared. And so when I scared and I pull myself back, the guardian of the dog tells me, "Come here, don't be scared. He's like my son." And when he tells me, "Come here, he's like my son," for the first time I have ever somebody was telling me, "Come here." And when I felt that sense of closeness in his voice, I immediately grabbed his wrist and I asked him, "Uncle, please, can you teach me?" And his name was Leslie John. Leslie John became my teacher for almost 10 years. Under his mentorship, I was able to learn how to read, write, and understand basic human rights. Leslie John also gave me my last name, Sheikh. In Arabic, it is the name of a man at the top of the hierarchy, the chief of a tribe or a royal family member. Perhaps my teacher, he intended to empower me. I didn't realize this until many years later. Leslie John also helped me apply for a birth certificate. With a reluctant bureaucracy, it took almost 11 years to issue. It was riddled with spelling mistakes, date mistakes. As my mind expanded over the next few years, I realized, looking back, that as a girl in my community, my status was not as a human being, but as a commodity that could be bought and sold. I realized that from birth I had been brainwashed to believe that our lives as a ruler people are insignificant. And when I learned that some people had birthdays and birth certificate and birthdays parties, and that their lives were celebrated, my mind raced to the women in my family, my mother, my aunt, and my sisters. And I felt traumatized by how little our lives were worth. Whether we lived, died, worked, strived, suffered, simply did not matter. In Kathmandu, I saw women with deep trauma in their eyes and emptiness in their malnourished bodies. I was determined to empower them at the age of 16. I managed to secure a loan to set up the first social business in Kathmandu, local women's handicrafts. We began breaking the rules of oppression in a country where only 0.1% of women were business owners. In the heart of Kathmandu, surrounded by businesses built on modern-day slavery, we became free of the cycle of poverty, and I was becoming a social entrepreneur.
Local Women's Handicraft is a fair trade sewing collective in Kathmandu. It is a social enterprise to lift women who have been marginalized and exploited, to give them opportunity, skills, and a sense of dignity, and to spread our model of empowerment across the world. Each of our centers is both a sustainable production facility and safe space of learning, growth, and community. The women who come to our centers are offered opportunities, training, and services that empower them to progress in their lives with self-value that many of them had never known was possible. When they arrive, the women have the opportunity to participate in training lasting up to 4 years. They learn professional skills in fiber crafts, entrepreneurship, and sustainability. During this time, they receive a stipend and engaged mentorship from our staff and other women who have been through the program before them. After the training, they can choose to work at the center with a living wage or open their own small businesses. Beyond economical empowerment, our holistic model supports the whole woman so they can learn to feel safe and heal from trauma.
In 2015, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake shattered Kathmandu, Nepal. This brought huge financial pressure on our organization. My business started to fall apart, and I did not know what to do. A friend encouraged me to start speaking out about the dire situation in Nepal. I was selected to present at Aspire, a women's leadership conference in Chicago. At 25 years old, I traveled alone from Nepal to US. What struck me immediately was all the tall, shiny buildings, women walking alongside men, and seeing people walking dogs attached to leashes. I walked onto a stage in front of 250 women, lawyers, community leaders, and entrepreneurs. What happened next was a moment of powerful awakening. They listened in complete silence to my story, and I was overwhelmed by the response with a standing ovation. One day, while I was in the US, I walked to this major department store and I found myself in the clothing section, and I saw rows upon rows of clothes on rack, and I was looking through the designs, and all those designs looks very similar, the colors, the sizes. And I reached out and I touched the fabric. That fabric also very felt similar and familiar, as this is something that I have just touched and seen in only yesterday. And that's when, like when I touched and feel and see that stacks and stacks of clothes, that's when it just immediately, like, I find myself in the sweatshop. I'm seeing, around, and I see like people are taking that garment, putting them into the carts, and the children and the families, they're all safe and laughing and driving away home happily. And that's when I really realized that, oh my God, my childhood was stolen in slavery. And I felt like I like a victim. I was a victim of that, and I was innocent and observing that terrible inequality of people and their happiness, and all part of the same cycle of commerce. This just hit me so hard, and I saw in the sweatshop my bloods and tears being squished into the clothes. People are exchanging that with plastic card, and people are feeling completely okay with it. They're actually giving high five when they get a deal. And that's when I'm like, oh my God, this world is so disconnected, and slavery still exists. Slavery, maybe it's changed the form now. More than you having a servant in the home, now we have in the form of products that is slave in our home. This realization in the US inspired me to found the Empowerment Collective nonprofit organization. I'm campaigning on behalf of them by sharing my story around the world and advocating for the 7 keys to eradicate modern-day slavery. Number 1, nutritious food. Number 2, clean water. Number 3, safe shelter. Number 4, healthcare. Number 5, education. Number 6, a non-toxic environment. Number 7, access to technology. These are the 7 most basic things that we need to even eradicate modern day slavery. These are basic things, because what is happening is a lot of these people are knowing that there is a modern day slavery, there is a sweatshop, there is a forced labor, there is a fast fashion company and all that. But how can we fix it? We can fix it only by giving the power back to the people, and and these people, when they have nutritious food, when they have clean water, when they have shelter, when they have safe environment, they can heal, and then they can become a problem solver and change maker and leader in that community to save the culture and traditions. These experiences that happened to me as a child, but now I'm realizing that whatever happened to me, it is still happening to 40 million people today date. And there is a whole report around that there's 20 million women and girls are still living in modern day slavery in the same experience. Once I knew that number, I felt like, oh my God, like I need to talk about these people, and I need to bring help. I need to bring help to these underserved communities, women and girls, because I have lived it. That experience run through my blood. It's like that's what keeps me every night to be awake and work hard. And I feel like I won't stop until I end and we all end together modern day slavery. Thank you.
And joining us live today from Portland, Oregon, we have Nasreen Sheikh. Welcome, and thank you so much for sharing your powerful story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I deeply appreciate for everyone giving their time to watch this story and hear this story. This is the story of almost 29 million women and girls. So touches my soul and it heals me, in a big way, that there are people who cares. So thank you.
Absolutely. And just hearing you talk about it, you mentioned in the video that when you were in the US maybe for the first time, you mentioned about being awed about seeing women walking alongside men in the street or seeing people walking their dogs. These are usual sights for people in America, but it's a reminder that it's not the case for other people in different parts of the world. So I think there's a lot to unpack there. And as we are going into the Q&A segment of our talk today, I'd like to ask everyone to write your questions in the comment field below. Introduce yourselves if you haven't. For those of you who have, thank you so much. So your name, where you're joining from, and your question, and I'll read through them during our Q&A section with Nasreen. So Nasreen, I will start. You have gone through a lot in your life, and I think one of the things that you mentioned is it's important to talk about it because it's also part of healing.
Yeah.
You mentioned about my childhood was stolen in slavery. I mean, it's a huge statement. It's a powerful statement, and I'm sure there's a lot of trauma.
Yes.
With your experience. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and how do you deal with this?
I live with it. It's my daily. I had to accept it, and I had to accept that yes, my childhood was stolen. Yes, I was slave. Yes, I was very, very poor. Yes, I had so many torture from the society, from the world, and that's once I accept it, and once I'm like, okay, now I accept it. How can I use it? And the best way for me to use it to whatever thing that happened to me, how can I not let that happen to other people. And that's where the whole thing started about healing, and the healing with one woman, you know. That's what drove me to go for a loan, you know, like in a country where only almost like in that time only 0.1% women were owning the business, and right now it's only 2%. So it's like a country which is completely male dominated society, 98% run by them. So like it takes a lot of courage, but I feel now and I understand now that this trauma gave me that power to go back, because it's like, you know, it's like there is a certain capacity, like once the suppression goes so down, it's like volcano, it's the source of your source of nature, and we explode and we do things. So for me is to, I live with my trauma every single day when I go back to sleep, you know, and I would have many epiphanies and many thoughts, and I had to every day talk to myself in my head and switch that, you know. It was okay, whatever that happened, I need to make sure that it does not happen to any more children. And that's just gives me like a smile, and then I work and I connect with people like you, and I go out and I share and I talk.
Thank you for sharing that. If I get a little bit emotional here, is because I think we all can relate, you know, thinking about women in our lives or thinking about children. For all of us parents, it's, you know, it's a situation that no parents want their children to go through, and yet this is still happening in so many parts of the world. And you know, there must be thousands of women or children who want to escape their situation and come to work with local women's handicrafts. Can you talk a little bit more about that? How do you limit the number of people who can join? Do you have to turn away some people who want to work
Yeah.
for a shelter and get training because you don't have the capacity?
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking to be not able to help people, and especially, you know, I remember when I was in the street, and when I tell my teacher to help me, and if he would have ignored me, it would most likely would have, you know, push my life back, either be forced into marriage or be in the human trafficking or be in the another sweatshop, you know. So whenever the people comes to me for help, I already know that how much they have built the courage to come and seek for help and change, and not being in a situation to be able to provide, it just breaks my heart. But this is such a sad reality that still, like, you know, most of the businesses in Nepal is built on the back of modern day slaves, you know. And most of those victims are women and children, and especially from very underserved communities. So it's a very it's I mean, you know, and this pandemic just pushed us like 30 years back in our development. And like when I think of them, it's very overwhelming, and there needs to be many more organizations to step into, to really help the humanity. And I feel like if the people will be helped, then that's how we will preserve the nature, and that's how we will preserve the culture and traditions. But if people are traumatized, it's going to, I have seen, like, you know, if, in my villages, when people are hungry, they go and cut the trees, you know, and they don't care because they need to feed themselves. And I understand, you know, that they will cut the tree because they need to feed themselves. So people needs to be like, there's a lot of help needed, and local women's handicraft is just doing a small part of like working with individual women, one woman at a time. We bring them, and our philosophy is like I have, like, you know, because it was like very short timeline, but long journey gave me an awareness that we need to open all of our doors from our awareness. And if we block one door, we might harm much bigger than we think. And sometimes we think we are helping, but we are not helping, you know. So I saw that how the ripple effects works, you know. So I had to like literally open all my door, which is like holistic approach. And the holistic approach was to literally build a center. You know, I didn't want it to have just an office or just like a place to have the women and come and goes, and training lasts for like a week and then I don't know where they are and all that. So I told my people and my supporter that I need, in order to heal people, I need to have the center. And in the center, I need to have these 7 different programs. You know, I want to make sure that every woman come to the center, have the nutritious food, they have clean drinking water, they have health, they have education, they have, you know, safe environment. And all those 7 keys that we advocate, we incorporated that. And once we gave that holistic approach to that person, we saw that we were not only healing that woman, but we were healing the whole family, and literally cutting the line of that, you know, oppression. And the women were becoming the entrepreneurs, and if they were the artists, then they were speaking up for their voices. And that was like, you know, a change for me. So, you know, I also want people to be mindful how you help, you know, and how much it's impacting the people life, you know, because if you help very little, it's like, you know, you have a little wound and you give a little bit of like something, and then you keep digging it, it goes more deeper, it doesn't heal, you know. So we need to learn how to heal properly. So that's what Local Women's Handicraft is doing. We have only capacity to help and support 50 women at a time. And, you know, it's so sad, like 85% of women in Nepal especially needs help with you know, they're victim of modern day slavery and fast fashion, and they need help. So every day we had to return women, and we feel heartbroken. We want to expand, and we want more partners and more good people to come and join, or either take this model and apply in Pakistan, or apply in, you know, Africa, or including in US also, you know, like what can we do on the consumer side to reach holistic approach.
There's so many things that I want to unpack and follow up from what you're saying, but you were talking about the 7 keys, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone saw this and are reminded of this. So these are nutritious food, clean water, shelter, safe, non-toxic environment, healthcare, education, and access to technology. And you're saying that, and these are, for many of us, we have never lived without them. Yet you lived through situations without one or many of this being available. And so you started talking about what people can do to help fix the situation, but do you have more thoughts on this? Because, you know, to be honest, these are big issues.
Yeah.
Are impacting, you know, so many people around the world.
Yeah, so true. Like this is, I think these 7 keys are basic human rights. And I was looking into the UN 17 sustainable goal, and, you know, I saw that it was great, it was awesome. And I was trying to implement that in our center. And then what happened is it felt like overwhelming, and there was so many things could like, you know, like there's like urgency, and an urgency, you can do the certain thing to really, like, you know, lift people from here to there, you know. And for me is to like, okay, what are the most essential? And then I had to go back in my own life and my, you know, as a survivor from the modern day slavery, as being the one of the poorest person in the world, like where I didn't even had an orange until the age of 12. My parents couldn't afford. So having those experiences that led me really think, like, you know, what are the basic things that these underserved community needs to uplift themselves, you know, and what the government should do, or what are the, you know, businesses do to implement this. So this became like more like a campaign for us, that, you know, any companies, you know, if they are bringing, like, for example, example, let's give an example for Greenheart, you know. So like Greenheart have you know, amazing people are working together, and if they hold a philosophy of these 7 keys and making sure that everybody receive this, then see the impact what happens. You know, people will become creative, you know, people will be no longer on the idea of like, you know, try to steal from somebody else, or because they will know that they have their basic things covered up, and they need to create, and they need to become a problem solver, change maker, and leader. Because that is what did to me. Like when my teacher came and he gave me the education and he gave me this food, and you know, it brought me into a safe zone. And when I got into the safe zone, then I was like, okay, I need to be a leader for this community, I need to do this. So that's like the 7 keys are an example that we are not just talking about it, we are living with this example, and we are creating these centers around this philosophy, and we are proving to the society that how we are healing the community. And then on the global level, through our empowerment collective nonprofit organization, we are advocating for it, and we are asking the UN and all these big organizations that, you know, 17 is great, but can we push the basic human rights, you know? And the basic human rights is these 7 things. And if we can give these 7 things to each communities, they will be able to solve their problems on their own. You know, we don't need to go and save them, you know? I don't believe in saving anybody. You can't save anyone. You need to just give opportunities and as a leader, as a foundation, so they can lift themselves up, you know? If my teacher would have just given me that day, like, you know, $1, you know, I would be a beggar next day again, you know, on the street. But I chose to ask him for education, and he gave me education. And with that education, I was able to heal myself, you know? So it's like, how can you give these basic things to every children that born in this planet to make sure that they don't fall under modern day slavery, but instead they become the change maker in their society to protect the tradition, to protect the culture.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. Recently, I talked to a friend who visited a slum in Indonesia, and she met with girls, young girls there. And one of them came to her and asked for, she didn't ask for food or clothing, snacks, but what she was asking for was a book and a pencil, because she knew that an education would get her out of the situation. So exactly what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, there are a lot of, you know, like in these underserved communities, millions of people, like, you know, they're looking for a chance, you know, and they're looking for the chance to work hard, to educate themselves. They're pushing so hard to change, you know, but unfortunately there are very little resources, and not only very little resources are there, but also a lot of like society just holds you back and tells you every time no, you know, instead of supporting and saying like yes, you know. And the more we become poor, the more pressure we have from the society. And I don't know, like, this drives me crazy, because if I have a water problem, then I have also like forced marriage problem, and then I have my husband problems, and then I have my brother problems. Like, the problem goes on and on and on. So, you know, it's very, I feel the most hardworking people are from these underserved communities, and once they will be able to heal themselves, they will be like really like non-stop leaders, that they will go after it and they will fix these problems. But they need to have like you know, like a place to speak, you know, and to share. And we need to learn how to pass that mic to those people, you know, because they have so much to share. And, you know, yeah, just, so I agree with you, these girls asking for education.
Sure. So that's, I mean, I'm glad that we're starting to talk about the specifics of what we can do to help, providing opportunities for people to share those stories, you know, giving them that microphone so that they can share the story and raise awareness. I think that's the first thing to do, making sure that people are aware of this. And I'm seeing a question or a comment and question from one of our audience members. This is Antonius from Jakarta, Indonesia. He said that for me personally, this is really an eye-opening story. My question is, with the amplified focus worldwide on fair trade movement recently, what are you hoping to see or experience in the next couple of years and beyond?
That's a really good question. Fair trade being amplified. It's like I see more sustainable business are thriving. I will see more local artists being valued. I will see the huge impact on the environment side that, you know, if we do like, you know, really follow the fair trade principles, we will be able to preserve the nature, and nature is us, you know, like we will save ourselves. So I see a lot of like powerful things happening where, like, you know, more equality will happen also, you know, because people in the workspace is being equally treated. So that will be the huge piece. The second piece would be the nature being able to heal, and then the third part would be like more of the people running the business instead of big corporations, and the artist having a voice, you know, like their stories being told to the people, that how many days it took to these clothes, and, you know, what is this made from. That's a big truth, you know, that we don't know right now. Like, I don't know where this come from, you know, I'm still using it and I'm owning it, you know, but I have no idea what going to affect on the environment and all that. So it's like, once we know the truth of this, then we will value it, and once we value it, then we will connect more, and when we connect more, then we heal the world.
For sure. And, you know, talking about clothing, this is something that a lot of us can relate to. You know, people love fashion, and but after hearing your story, we don't want to contribute to the issue. We want to be part of the solution. So, you know, you mentioned about the smaller artisans, local artisans, instead of the, you know, big brand shops. Are you working with any big clothing companies to influence their production or their sourcing? Or what has been their response to past efforts on this that you know of?
I actually don't work with any big companies, and I'm working with the fair trade groups, and I'm advocate for them. And I feel like there's a lot of massive corporations, big companies, fast fashion industries are, you know, they have only few choices, you know, either they will change and become a part of fair trade community and bring that change, or eventually I think they will die, you know, because it's like we're going to kill the planet if we don't change, you know. And we are killing them. Like, fashion industry is one of the most polluting industry right now, and more people are speaking about it, you know. And like, you look at, like, I was featured in Fashion Revolution just, like, you know, a few months back, and my message went like viral. That quote that I said, like, you know, like, if you don't know where your clothes come from, you are wearing 100% human suffering. And it just, you know, like, really legitimate that, because many people are like, yes, I don't know where my clothes, it means I am wearing suffering, you know. And so I feel like more and more companies are, you know, hearing the noise. And what happens with the big companies, they go where the noise is, you know. So if we as a people come together and we make a noise that, and we make that clear to the people that this is an issue and we need to know where our clothes come from, that's when I feel like this company will go back behind the scene and change their business model. Right now, it's just like, okay, customers, quantity, price, competition, you know, those are the things have been focused, because not many people are asking questions, you know. So like, myself coming through this, and many other organizations, fair trade, fashion revolutions, they all believe in the similar mission to support the people, to support the nature. And with that, I feel like we are coming to a place to make a bigger noise. So these companies can hear us too, and say like, okay, we need to change. So it's a struggle to change these companies, and I feel like people, normal people, have the power to speak up. And marginalized communities, like in my communities, people don't have a voice. We are very, very worried and scared, and we are not empowered to speak up. But if you have education, and if you have a mobile phone, and if you have internet, please use these stories and share it and make it noise, so people can really address these issues and take action to make a really big change.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing from you is that noise will bring us the change that we want, or start to go
Yeah.
to the place that we want, because that's where the fast fashion companies will go. They will want to follow the trend. And if
Yeah.
people are demanding
Mhm.
fair trade and making sure that there's ethical sourcing
Yeah.
and fair labor, work conditions, then eventually that will be the norm instead of the exception.
Pollution. Yes.
For
Yes.
sure. And also for people to ask questions: where are their clothes coming? Being more
Yeah.
aware of that, shopping fair trade and local artisans whenever
Yes.
possible. So I think from what I'm hearing from you, these are the concrete steps that all of us can take to positively affect the situation and change it for the better.
Yeah, like I would count, like really like ask questions, and it could be start from your clothes, but also it could start from the coffee that you drink, the chocolate that you eat, and clothes that you wear. So like, let's not get super overwhelmed, but let's start with one thing and like fix that, and then go to the next one. And there are local artists, local businesses, family owned businesses, support them. And then, and if you can't find it, like go to fair trade certified, fair trade federation. They have list of businesses that who is like really working so hard, and such a great people that is coming together and letting go of their profits. They're letting go of all the, like there's so much focused on helping people and climate, and they're so dedicated. So we want to support them, and so they are listed in these fair trade federation, fair trade certified. Like what Greenheart is doing, like amazing work. Like, let's support these small organizations, and very heart centered. And one day we will be the one that will be like, become a really good leader, who are passionate for people and the nature, and really heal the world.
Absolutely. So on that note, I think it's again, I want to thank you and commend you for the work that you're doing with local women's handicrafts, and to encourage everyone who's watching to check it out for sure, but also to share with the audience. If you have just recently joined us, we did an episode with Chris Salt from the Fair Trade Federation a few months ago, talking about fair trade, the importance and how this affects people. So I highly recommend that everyone check out the past episode and watch that, because these are connecting,
Yeah, connecting the dots. Yeah.
connecting the dots, and we need to have more of these conversations. And
Yes.
on that note, I wish we have more time, but we are out of time. But we do hope that um, everyone has learned something today from your presentation and our conversation, Nasreen, and we really appreciate your thoughts and your insights, and we wish you all the best and all of the wonderful things that you will continue to do in affecting positive change in the world.
Oh, thank you so much, Marshall and Greenheart, for having me, and giving a voice to people like us, and giving the platform to share our stories. I feel like the more we do like these types of episode, it will give power to more individual and underserved communities, people to share their stories, to see how people can support, I want people to go to local women's handicrafts website and read not just my story, but the story of all the women that is listed there, see and learn from them, and feel like how these women are living their life, and they're really looking up to you, they're really looking up for you. And like they have very limited resources. So if we can expand our consciousness and learn how to be a leader in the community and give back, it will really benefit a lot of underserved communities. And I feel like modern day slavery can be end as soon we can, because nobody should be slave, no children's lives should be stolen, and we all are beautiful human. In Hinduism, there is a saying that it takes 99 cycle of rebirth to be a human, and being a human is such a powerful form, and we don't want to steal anyone happiness, and never ever we want to give trauma. So with that, please, anywhere you can make a difference, please go and do it. Either it's share the stories, likes, comments, social medias. Please, use this moment to serve the humanity and really eradicate modern day slavery as soon we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everyone else, stay tuned for an exciting segment on our global community friend. We have thousands of Greenheart friends and partners from around the world who share our commitment to connecting people and planet. Today, we're highlighting a member of our global community, Work and Shelter. Work and Shelter is an ethical sourcing and cut and sew business employing and empowering women in need in India. Their ethical and fair trade labor practices, which also use sustainably sourced materials, result in exceptionally crafted products like our Greenheart t-shirts and shopping bags. Let's hear it from Theresa Vandermeer about founding this business as a vehicle for positive social and environmental change.
I'm Theresa Vandermeer, and I'm the founder of Work Shelter. I originally went to India when I was 21, and it was on a grant from the University of Michigan to do research on how economic empowerment changes women's lives socially. And so I think that we all have a pretty good sense of that. Like, when a woman starts earning an income, it completely transforms her ability to care for her children, to care for herself, and it gives her like a status in the relationship in the family that she might not have had before.
Work Shelter is an ethical cut and sew factory based in New Delhi, India, and in Chicago. Really what we're about is providing fairly paid work to women in need in India. We've been doing this for 9 years. We have almost 50 employees, 75% of whom are women. Not only do we pay the women to learn how to sew, we're oftentimes teaching them about how to be in a working environment in the first place. And so we are doing paid job training, and then the women are making products that are eco-friendly products. So we're talking about organic t-shirts, tote bags. We do custom production for small businesses and designers that are looking to source their product, but they want to make sure that the sourcing and the provenance of the production is ethical and meets fair trade standards. And I met a number of individual women who shared with me really challenging stories. So stories of being widowed and then having to support 2 young children and being kicked out of their home and really struggling to even put food on the table. I met another woman who had been repeatedly abused by her husband. I met a number of women who just talked to me about how their work really gave them a bridge to get out of their bad situation. So this was really a passion project that after a number of years grew and grew and grew. And it grew in significant part because of people's awareness of how the fashion industry needs to be held accountable for its impact. So, we're really benefiting from that increased awareness that people have about how they're connected to the person on the other side who's actually making the item that they're wearing or using. What's always amazing to me is when I go to India and I can see the impact for myself. And one of the ways that you see the impact is, one, like how much a person weighs, and two, how she behaves with you. With women who are like extremely vulnerable, is they come to the shelter and a lot of times they are skipping meals in order to support their kids. So one woman in particular, her name is Renu, she was making a decision not to eat dinner because she wanted her daughters to be in school. Government funded schools in India are free, but you have to buy uniforms. And so for a lot of families, they can't afford them. And they want the kids at home to help earn an income or to do work around the house and that kind of thing. And so this woman in particular was making a strategic decision. I want my daughters in school. And so after a while, and her wage, in a consistent wage, resulted in her gaining weight. I see the difference in how women look and also how they interact with us. So many times when women first come in, they won't lock eyes with me. They're really have low self-esteem, have really been, abused in different scenarios, or really suffering. And so you see after months of them working that they start to laugh, they open up, they feel safe, they feel comfortable. And after a while, everybody is joking and they're picking on each other. And, they walk in off the street and immediately take their scarves off. And so that sort of confidence and, feeling of strength goes with them after they leave the center as well.
Fundamentally, I started Work Shelter because I wanted to create jobs for women in need. I see that now I can make an impact with every single thing that we do as a company. And once I understand those variables, I can augment them in order to ensure that the way that we impact the world is 100% positive.
Thank you. That was truly inspirational and perfect fit for our International Women's Day this month. Do you have an idea to share with us about personal development or taking care of the environment or of each other? If you do, please email us at connects@greenheart.org. We would love to hear from you and potentially feature you on an upcoming Greenheart Connects episode or highlight you on our social media channels. There's so much that I've learned today. Many thanks to Nasreen for joining us and to Theresa for sharing her work. And thank you so much to all of you who participated and asked questions today. Join us on April 22nd, 2021 at 11 a.m. when we talk with a mother-daughter pair, Beatriz Gomez and Paula Lorente. They will share their personal development stories, both influenced by the power of cultural exchange. Paula will graduate from a Spanish high school in 2021. She was an exchange student with Greenheart in 2018-2019 and earned the Junior Greenheart Global Leaders Conference Scholarship that year. She's involved in activism events related to climate change and the preservation of the environment. Beatriz is the co-owner of Centro Cultural de Idiomas, a cultural exchange organization based in Madrid. Beatriz always dreamed of traveling and living abroad, and when she was 16, her parents gave her the best opportunity of her life, studying in the United States for her senior year in high school. So Beatriz went on to live and travel in many other countries before establishing her own exchange company. We think you'll be inspired. You are here because you want to learn about ways to care for our planet and for each other. And for that, thank you. We hope that you will share this episode with your friends and colleagues, and that the exchange of ideas will open new perspectives for all of us. Greenheart Connects has new episodes every month and is free for anyone who creates a login. Later today, this full episode will be available online. Be sure to check out past episodes too. They're all housed on the Greenheart Connects website. There are many other inspirational speakers and engaging topics that you definitely do not want to miss. Also, please check out the resources page for more information that has been shared by our speakers. And finally, please join us on our social media channels to continue the conversation and to support each other, and to share what you are doing to make the world a better place. We hope to see you here again on April 22nd, 2021 for the next Greenheart Connects episode. Until then, thank you.